I never saw it coming. When I first met Jake, his charm drew me in like a moth to a flame. He was confident, charismatic, and had this way of making you feel like the center of his universe. Little did I know that beneath that dazzling smile lay a dark and twisted soul. As our relationship progressed, I began to notice subtle signs of Jake's narcissistic tendencies. It started with small things, like belittling my accomplishments and making snide remarks about my appearance. But as time went on, his behavior grew increasingly sinister. One evening, as I was preparing dinner, I accidentally dropped a glass, shattering it into 1,000 pieces. In that split second, I braced myself for Jake's wrath. But to my surprise, he erupted into a fit of laughter, mocking my clumsiness. "Can't even handle a simple glass, can you?" he sneered, his eyes filled with a cruel delight. It was in that moment that I realized how much pleasure he derived from my vulnerability. It sent shivers down my spine. But what truly sent shivers down my spine was Jake's obsession with power and dominance. He reveled in reducing me to nothing more than a puppet on his strings. He would force me to perform degrading acts, all while relishing in my despair. One night he demanded that I crawl on my hands and knees like an obedient dog, while he sat on the couch sipping his whiskey. Tears streamed down my face as I complied, feeling the weight of his control crushing my spirit. I had always thought that my career as a doctor would give me a sense of purpose and strength, but even that became a weapon in Jake's hands. He would taunt me about my patience, making me question my abilities and driving me to the brink of madness. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" he would sneer, his voice dripping with venom. "But look at you now, a failure in the eyes of your patients. They deserve someone better than you." His words cut deep, like a surgeon's scalpel slicing through my self-esteem. I would retreat to my study, burying myself in medical journals, desperate to find solace in the knowledge that once brought me pride. But even there, Jake's influence seeped into every crevice of my life. One day I found my research notes scattered across the floor, pages torn and stained with coffee. It was a deliberate act of sabotage, a message from him that he could destroy everything I held dear. I knew I had to escape, but Jake's iron grip seemed unbreakable. Until one fateful night when I stumbled upon a hidden secret, my heart raced as I rummaged through Jake's study, searching for any shred of evidence that could expose his true nature. The room was filled with his accolades and achievements, a showcase of his narcissistic ego. But amidst the polished veneer, I discovered a locked drawer hidden beneath his desk. With trembling hands, I picked the lock, my heart pounding in my chest. As the drawer creaked open, I found a stack of meticulously organized files, each one labeled with a different date. Curiosity and dread mingled within me as I flipped through the pages, my eyes widening in disbelief. The files contained photographs, letters, and chilling accounts of his past victims, women who had fallen prey to his web of manipulation and abuse. Their faces stared back at me, haunted and broken, their stories echoing the torment I had endured. It was as if their pain had been captured and immortalized within those pages. Determined to bring Jake to justice, I copied every incriminating piece of evidence, careful not to leave a trace. The weight of my actions pressed heavily upon me, knowing that exposing him would mean sacrificing everything I had worked so hard for. But the desire for freedom overwhelmed my fear. Armed with the truth, I took a deep breath and presented the evidence to the authorities. Justice seemed within reach as Jake was arrested and charged. The courtroom was filled with whispers of his crimes, and I finally felt a glimmer of hope. But just when I thought I had won, the plot twisted in the most unimaginable way. During the trial, it was revealed that Jake had been keeping a meticulously crafted diary, documenting every twisted act he had committed against me. But instead of serving as proof of his guilt, it became a weapon against me. His defense lawyer argued that I had fabricated the diary, spinning a web of lies to bring Jake down. To my horror, the jury believed them. I was deemed the manipulative one, the one who had concocted this elaborate scheme to destroy an innocent man. The room spun around me as the gavel struck, sentencing me to prison for defamation and perjury. Now I sit here behind these cold, unforgiving bars, my career in ruins, my reputation tarnished. The irony is not lost on me. I tried to escape the clutches of a narcissistic monster only to be trapped in a nightmare of my own making. As I reflect on the events that led me here, I realize that the true horror lies not in the evil that men do, but in the way society can turn a blind eye to the suffering of others. The system failed me, and I'm left to ponder the haunting question: will justice ever truly be served? The walls close in on me, suffocating my spirit, but amidst the darkness, a flicker of resilience ignites within me. I will not be silenced. I will fight to expose the truth, even from behind these prison bars. And maybe, just maybe someday, the world will see the monster that lurks within the facade of Jake's charming smile. But until then, I remain a prisoner, not only of these cold, unforgiving walls, but of the twisted machinations of a society that failed to protect its most vulnerable. I never thought I'd find myself trapped in a nightmare, but life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. Let me tell you about my wife, Emily. At first, she seemed like the woman of my dreams, beautiful and charming. Little did I know that behind that facade lay a dark and twisted soul. It all started innocently enough, a chance encounter at the supermarket where I worked as a cashier. Emily would come in every week, flashing her winning smile, her cart piled high with groceries. We struck up a conversation one day, and before I knew it, we were married. But soon after the wedding, I began to notice something off about Emily. She would always demand my attention, belittling me whenever I didn't comply with her every whim. The control she exerted over me was suffocating, like a noose tightening around my neck. One evening, as I scanned groceries at my register, I noticed Emily enter the supermarket. Her eyes scanned the aisles, and I could see the glint of malicious intent in them. I felt a chill run down my spine as she approached my line, a twisted grin playing across her lips. I knew something was about to happen, but I couldn't fathom the depths of her cruelty. As Emily reached the front of the line, she tossed a few items onto the conveyor belt, her eyes never leaving mine. I tried to maintain my composure, but a sense of impending doom hung heavily in the air. With each beep of the scanner, the tension grew thicker, suffocating me. And then it happened. Emily leaned in, her voice dripping with venom, and whispered, "You're nothing without me. A pathetic loser who will never amount to anything." Her words cut through me like a knife, shattering my already fragile sense of self-worth. As customers shuffled by, oblivious to the turmoil brewing beneath the surface, Emily's words echoed in my mind. I felt an overwhelming urge to escape, to break free from her toxic grip. But it was too late. The damage was done, and I was trapped in this twisted reality she had created. Months turned into years, and the abuse escalated. Emily's cruel words and demeaning actions became the soundtrack of my existence. Every day I would put on a smile for the world, but inside I was crumbling. One fateful evening, as I stood at my register, my heart heavy with despair, Emily appeared once again. But this time there was a glimmer of sadness in her eyes. She whispered words of remorse, of a desire to change. And for a moment, a flicker of hope ignited within me, but it was all a ruse. As I turned to grab a bag, I felt a searing pain shoot through my back. I collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. Emily had plunged a knife into my back, ending my suffering once and for all. As the lights dimmed around me, I caught a glimpse of Emily's twisted smile. She had achieved her final victory, leaving me broken and lifeless on the supermarket floor. And as the world faded away, I couldn't help but wonder how someone so evil could wear the mask of an angel. So remember, appearances can be deceiving. You never truly know the depths of darkness that lie hidden beneath a captivating smile. I'll never forget the chilling days when I was married to Jack. He had this sinister way of making everything about him. Our relationship started out normal, but soon enough his true colors began to show. Jack was a tall man with a disarming smile and piercing blue eyes. He worked as a long-haul truck driver, often away for weeks at a time. At first I admired his adventurous spirit, but that excitement soon turned into dread. Whenever Jack was home, he'd demand constant attention, showering himself with compliments while belittling my accomplishments. He manipulated situations to make me doubt myself, making me feel small and insignificant. His words cut deeper than any knife. One stormy night, after weeks of being on the road, Jack returned home with a sinister gleam in his eyes. He claimed to have met a beautiful woman at a truck stop, but insisted they were just friends. His voice dripped with a sickening charm, as if he enjoyed tormenting me. The next day, while Jack was out, I decided to investigate his claims. I drove to the truck stop he mentioned, hoping to put my mind at ease. As I pulled into the gas station, I noticed a familiar-looking truck parked in the corner. It was Jack's. Nervously, I approached the truck, my heart pounding in my chest. I peered through the window and froze. There on the passenger seat was a lacy red lingerie set. Rage and confusion flooded my mind. How could he? Just then, the gas station attendant tapped me on the shoulder. Startled, I turned to face him, my eyes swollen from tears. He must have seen the distress on my face because he asked if everything was okay. I mustered the courage to tell him about my cheating husband. The attendant, a kind-looking older man, sighed and shook his head. He shared a shocking revelation with me. Jack was known among the trucker community for his manipulative ways. Apparently, he had a knack for charming women and leaving a trail of broken hearts in his wake. As the attendant spoke, I felt a mixture of anger and relief. anger at Jack for his deceit and relief for finally uncovering the truth. But what could I do now? I had devoted so much of myself to this toxic relationship. The story took a sinister turn when the attendant offered me a chilling piece of advice. He said that confronting Jack might lead to dangerous consequences. It was as if he knew something I didn't, something that sent shivers down my spine. Feeling trapped and helpless, I thanked the attendant for his honesty and climbed back into my car. I knew I had to escape this nightmare, but I couldn't shake off the fear that Jack would come after me. Days turned into weeks, and I prepared to leave, gathering my belongings and stashing away money. Finally, the day came when I couldn't take it anymore. I packed my car with the little I had left and drove away, leaving behind the haunting memories and the man who destroyed me. As I stopped for gas one last time, a rush of emotions overwhelmed me. Tears streamed down my face as I realized the enormity of what I had endured. With each gallon of gas, I felt a weight being lifted off my shoulders. But fate had other plans. As I stood by the pump, lost in my thoughts, a truck screeched to a halt in front of me. It was Jack. The same sinister smile played on his lips as he stepped out of the truck and walked towards me. My heart raced as Jack approached, his eyes filled with a twisted mix of anger and entitlement. Panic gripped me, but I refused to let him see my fear. I took a step back, ready to make a run for it, but he blocked my path with a sinister grin. "You thought you could just leave me, huh?" he sneered, his voice dripping with venom. "Well, sweetheart, you belong to me. You're never getting away." Fear surged through every fiber of my being, but I summoned every ounce of courage I had left. "You don't own me, Jack," I managed to say, my voice trembling. "I'm done with your lies and manipulation. I deserve better." His laughter echoed through the empty gas station, chilling me to the core. "You think you can escape? Think again." He lunged towards me, his hands reaching for my throat, but I managed to dodge his grasp. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I sprinted towards the gas station's convenience store, desperately seeking help. I burst through the doors, gasping for breath, my eyes darting around the store for anyone who could save me from this nightmare. But to my horror, the store was deserted, the shelves barren. Panic settled over me like a suffocating blanket. Jack's heavy footsteps grew closer, taunting me. I was trapped, with nowhere left to hide. As he cornered me near the counter, his grip tightened around my arm, his fingers digging into my flesh. "You thought you could get away from me?" he hissed, his hot breath on my face. Just as I began to lose hope, the sound of screeching tires and honking horns pierced the air. A massive 18-wheeler careened into the gas station, smashing through the front entrance. Time seemed to slow down as chaos erupted around us. The trucker, a burly man with a beard and tattoos, jumped out of the truck cab, his eyes wild with fury. He charged towards Jack, landing a powerful punch that sent him sprawling to the ground. With a strength born from desperation, I wrenched myself free from Jack's grip. As I stumbled away from the violent scene, the trucker looked at me with concern in his eyes. "Are you okay, ma'am?" he asked, his voice gruff but comforting. Tears streamed down my face as I nodded, barely able to speak. "Thank you," I managed to choke out, my voice filled with gratitude. The trucker simply nodded and climbed back into his truck, disappearing into the night as quickly as he had arrived. I watched his taillights fade into the distance, a symbol of freedom and a glimmer of hope. In the aftermath of that fateful night, I found the strength to rebuild my life. Though the scars from my time with Jack would never fully heal, I vowed to never let anyone else have power over me again. And as I stood in that gas station, the bitter taste of my past lingering, I made a silent promise to myself. I would never let darkness consume me, and I would always fight for my own happiness.